a poet or something, or an
Zello, chin up, girl. You can pull off this expensive lifestyle. You must get it. Who am I kidding? I need to find something else to strive for. So many things that can be pursued nowadays. How do you tell what's meaningful from what's meaningless to pursue? Join us this coming Friday at 3 p.m. as we conclude the series Give in the episode Meaningful Pursuits.
Coming up on today's show.
They only really believe you're successful if you're a doctor, a lawyer, none of anything else. You can't come to your mom and say, no, I want to be a poet or something, or an author. They're going to look at you and say, and then who's going to be feeding the family? First, study the doctor we want you to be, and then afterwards. That's something that parents don't realize, that perhaps you end up leading your kids to meaningless pursuits.
Maybe it's meaningful for them, but not for the child.
Stay tuned. We are women. We are brave, strong, capable, unique. We are women to women.
Good afternoon, South Africa. We came to the end of month of April together, and I pray that you have had a blessed month. For some reason for me, whenever it is the month of Passover, it is the most beautiful season for me in the Christian calendar. So I'm still cherishing the month of Passover, and I hope and pray that you have had a good month. If not, we are going to pray for you. And whatever it's not yet in the right place, God will make it to happen in your life. We are still dwelling and meditating about giving. And today we bring to you a title called Meaningful Pursuits. To my surprise, when I wanted to get a definition of pursuit, I was taken that it's very related to one means of living. So we could say profession, vocation, avocation, trade, provided that it is developed with extreme zeal and interest. And that led us to think about there are pursuits who are very meaningful, but there are those that are meaningless. Point that we want to reach today is that whatever your pursuit is, that is your gift. And you will understand during the show what do we mean by that. So talking about meaningful pursuits, I think we will have many things we could name as a meaningful pursuit. Would you give us some examples?
Well, the first one that I thought of was with family. A lot of people nowadays want to get married, and it is actually a wonderful gift. But a lot of people, they go into it sometimes without it being meaningful. So probably someone said to you, oh, you'll never get married, or you are not marriage material. So in aim of me wanting to prove a point, now my pursuit is not meaningful because I want to prove that I'm right and I can do it. We find a lot of women getting married. And once they get married, get the ring, get the paper, get the status of saying, now I am married. So I can tick it off on my legal documents that I'm a married woman. However, when you're in that relationship, you actually are not giving the best of yourself. You actually no longer becoming a good gift to your partner. And later on, you find them being more absent from their partner's lives rather than being present. So it's almost like they are a silent partner in a business that never appears. And the husband will always have to be making excuses. No, my wife couldn't make it today because of this. Oh no, she's not taking care of the house because, she's very busy. She's pursuing her career. She wants to secure the bag. And later on, when they start seeing maybe that husband is noticing and is not happy, they start complaining and being frustrated and saying, oh no, but I don't live for you. My life does not revolve around you. Forgetting that when you got married, you said you were both going to become one, but it's almost like now you just became two. And to worsen the situation, in some instances, then they say, no, I want our family to look good. So I want the perfect family picture, family postcard. So I'll have children. And once they have those kids, they are enabled as well to mother and really be caregivers to those kids because they're constantly absent. So instead of them being the present mom who will be a gift to the kids, to the husband, to the family, they're actually frustrated by what they pursued because from the get-go, it wasn't meaningful to them. What they were actually pursuing was to prove someone else wrong, and that entails them in not being a proper gift.
And it comes back to me the fact of the definition. It has to present extreme zeal and interest. So something that in principle should be very meaningful, that is to get married, to start a family, may become meaningless if the zeal and interest is not there, if you're doing that for all the wrong reasons. What other example would you say?
For me, I would say in career, because we have many people that are frustrated in this world. You find a person has a good career, but they are very frustrated. Reason being is because the person, they took that career not because they wanted it. It had no meaning to them. They did it because, okay, it's what is in now, or they say, because they said I couldn't do that, so let me prove to everyone that I can go for that. So they go pursue that career. At the end of the day, they even work, but at their workplace, they don't give the best. They are frustrated. They take out their frustration on people. And the other workers, they even wonder, what's wrong with her? She has a job. Other people don't have this job. She could be grateful for what she has. It is because she is frustrated. She took a career that was not meaningful to her. So now she's frustrated. She takes out her frustration on others. Then other people have to suffer because of her, because she was trying to prove a point to other people. Then today, that is why the world is full of people that are working, full of people who have careers, but they are very frustrated. And you wonder what is going on. It's because the career they took was meaningless to them. It was not meaningful. They wanted just to prove a point to people or to their family members.
I've heard that there are some tests, vocational tests, and they normally apply it in grade 11 and matric so that they have the idea of what they really want to pursue as their career. But interesting, part of the test codes the well-paid careers 2022. So many people may be, instead of looking for what will complete them, or what will bring excellence in what they do, they look at the financial benefit. And then they are not able to cope because, yes, the promise of a very wealthy career is there. But if you don't have a purpose, if you don't develop that with all your heart, with all your strength, the money will not satisfy you. The money will not bring you the meaning that you thought of. Yes, you have a diploma. Yes, you are working in that profession. But what is your gift? Frustration, disappointment. You have wasted resources, you have wasted your time, and you're still not yet happy. I was also thinking about our self-help. And I still wanted to take the opportunity, if you didn't watch, we have it in Univer. We spoke about one point that relates to this show. We were talking about how people want to feel good about themselves and how they project in social media their lives in a way that they either find validation or not. And to me, this is a meaningless pursuit, because all the efforts they put to project a lifestyle or using filters or to project even the appearance of a Christian with Bible verses and long texts, if it is only for the sake of becoming popular, of finding endorsement, validity, and approval, that is meaningless. It is the sign that you don't value yourself. You don't know your potential. And maybe you are just doing what people expect from you, but not necessarily who you are.
And in that, especially with social media, you put it up, but then as soon as the same people who were cheering you on say, we don't like that, you don't continue with it because it has no meaning to you. It's not meaningful to you. And especially with appearance, you find a lot of women that say, no, I want to empower women. I want to empower people. And how many people we've seen that they began on a journey because really it applied to them. But along the way, they started now mixing a lot of meaningless pursuits. So maybe you wanted to be a person that empowers people that went through something that you suffered from and you came out of it. But as soon as now they want now the likes, they want the followership, the number of people to go higher. Along the line, a lot of them end up finding themselves now chasing what is meaningless. And as soon as someone says, no, I don't like that anymore, they quit. And that's why we see today a lot of them having mental breakdowns. And there have been so many like advocations for mental health. Like, you take time for yourself off, do this, do that. But I kept thinking to myself, when I read someone saying, oh no, I had to take a mental break and a social media break for this number of months, and then you came back to it, and then you had to take another break again. Clearly, it's not working for you. But because you're pursuing this meaningless popularity that you don't want to have real people around you, you would rather have 1 million people that you don't know saying they like you, rather than focusing maybe on 10 that really love and support me. And I am a gift to them, and they're a gift to me. People end up pursuing this virtual reality that isn't true. And later on, it is so meaningless, as you said, because once your phone switches off, those people don't have your number. They don't have your address. They don't know where you live. If you get sick, if you're in a dear situation, they're never going to show up because they are not real. So in this generation whereby a lot of people want to say, I am a gift. They do actually say that. I will be a gift to the world with my talent and I will share it. Sometimes people don't really want that because they can see what is fake and what is real. And when it's meaningless, people can really tell that it's not true.
And whatever is fake, it is meaningless. We only see validity in what is real. And how many times people project an image that is not really them? I wonder what kind of gift am I giving? If I'm going to publish something that I might consider nice, I might publish a photo of us here and say, those are my friends. And I mean it, and I'm happy that I can share this moment with my friends. But how poor am I if I see that people don't comment and don't like my photo, and I remove? So what matters more? The comments of people or this genuine friendship and respect that we have to cherish maybe this moment, to cherish the place we've been together, to cherish something we were doing in the work of God, and how vain it becomes if I am more concerned about how people will enjoy or not, rather than what am I enjoying.
And this fakeness, you find it even in the church. In many churches, you find people that meaningfulness is kind of purpose. You do things with purpose. There are people that say, I want to serve God. They come to church. I don't mean only the universal church. I mean just church Christians. I want to serve God. But why do you want to serve God? I remember when I was young, I would tell my grandmother, because my great-grandfather was a pastor and all that. So I would tell my grandmother that I wanted to serve God. And the first thing she would ask me, why? There must be a reason. Is it because you heard that your grandfather and your great-grand, they were serving God? And then she would ask me to answer. Then I would say, no, it's because I feel like I have a calling. I would say to her when I was very young. And you see, just the question, it tells you that you can't do things with second intention. That's why we find people come, they say, I want to do the work of God, because they have no purpose. It has no meaning to them. They just want to do it because they see friends. Maybe we came together to the church, and my friends now, let me say, they are pastors' wives today. So why did I remain? I'm not a pastor's wife. So I'm going to be a pastor's wife as well. I want to be a pastor's wife. But because that part had no meaning for you, it was just something that you did out of emotions, then what happens at the end of the day, when maybe you are already in the work of God or as an assistant, you end up doing what? Going back now. You even go back to your old life. Then you do not feel like serving God anymore. I don't feel like wearing my uniform anymore. Why don't you feel like that? It's because everything you did had no meaning. It had no purpose. You did because maybe friends that I came with to the church, or maybe my mother, she's an assistant in the church, so I also want to be an assistant. That's why we find Christians that are not strong. They have no backbone. They serve when they feel like serving. You know, when they feel like, I want to put my uniform down, I don't want to serve because I'm not feeling, not because they are sick, because I'm not feeling, I woke up not feeling well. Everything is about feeling. There is no meaning or purpose. Instead of, I want to serve God because of who God is or what he has done for me. I want just to be grateful to him. There is no meaning. So that's why you end up finding people that are frustrated serving God as well.
Do you realize that we're talking about sometimes the same action or the same purpose or the same objective, let I say? And I will use this example of serving God. What in principle, it's honorable. So we could easily say, oh, that is a meaningful pursuit. But many people, maybe they wanted to do charity, they want to participate of programs of feeding the poor, of visiting orphanages, not for the sake or love for those people, but because somehow by doing so, it will help them to feel better about themselves. We are in Africa, and you know that we grow up with a sense of Ubuntu, of helping one another. It's part of our culture. It's part of who we are. But sometimes not necessarily for the love of people, for serving because you love God. But their action somehow makes you to feel better about yourself. So the same thing, serving God, doing charity, visiting an orphanage, can be meaningful, but it can also be meaningless. Because what is inside of you, what you are pursuing, it will be your gift to others. And when you are just pursuing, for instance, so that you can validate yourself, what you are giving to others is insecurity, is low self-esteem, is second-guessing yourself. But when you give from what you have for the pleasure of giving, you are nurturing other people. Another example that comes to mind is someone who pursues because it starts with zeal and interest. So whatever that person is going to do, set her mind, she applies a spirit of excellence. Because that spirit of excellence is in her. In the beginning, she will push to do better certain things that are not her skills or expertise, but she will push better to do. And we can have very basic examples. None of us knew how to take care of a house before, isn't that? Some of us would know how to bake, others don't. But if the spirit of excellence is in us, we learned. We might not be master chefs, and I promise you I'm not, but at least no one will go hungry in my house. So when we develop this spirit of excellence, we are going to put in practice for our lives, and we are going to give to others. However, I can do the same thing for the different reasons and without this spirit of excellence. So yes, you're going to receive a slice of my cake, but there is no excellence in that. It starts by the reason why I'm going to bake you the cake. you are not going to bless, to give to others that excellence that should be in you. So whatever they are going to respond you with, it will be on the lower level of less excellence. That's why I say, what you pursue, it is your gift.
I was also thinking of health-wise as well. A lot of people pursue being healthy, and they are able to pass that on to their families and their loved ones because it's meaningful to them. However, when you start doing it because that's what's on trend, there's this huge debacle like on the internet about one says eating this is good. Then the other one says, no, it's bad. Then this doctor comes in and says, no, they're both wrong. You should actually eat this and that. But I was thinking to myself, why do people end up doing that? If you don't have a meaningful pursuit in your health, you will end up, today I'll pick up this new habit, okay? Everybody's drinking hot lemon water with, honey or something. Then tomorrow someone says, no longer hot water, let's drink vinegar. Okay, now I'm on vinegar. And because your aim at the end of the day is not for you to be healthy, you don't even necessarily go to the right channels, going to the doctor and finding out what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And you end up not being a gift to your family because a lot of people find themselves getting sick because of the many things that they're just doing because that's what's popular.
And the cupboard full of things that you bought because someone said you saw an advertisement, then you saw those fake promises on social media, and you are left with a cupboard full of things you don't use.
Yes, like a million, like different types of oils, like different types of salts, like different types of pastas. Then people even end up getting confused, like around you, like, so which one are we eating today? Like today I'm a vegan, tomorrow I'm no longer a vegan. I'm this, I'm that. But it ends up being meaningless because we'll always have people that don't understand it around us. So if I come and like, I'm vegan, they're going to have a lot of questions like, really? Why? This, that. But if I'm really doing it meaningfully for myself, I will continue on it and I will excel, as you said. But if I'm just doing it because that's what's trending and that's what's good and it looks good to say this is what I am going to give up on it. And I will actually be a disappointment to that community as well. Because when we sometimes don't think of, as you're speaking of a company, if I'm not excelling in that company, though I might be doing my job and doing it well, I'm impeding that company from going to the next level. So someone else could step in that is really driven and wants to do that, and they could take that company to the next place. But we don't do that. We just do it because sometimes we say, no, that's what's working, so it's secure. Let me do this. And we do it a lot in Africa with culture, whereby there are some countries that in that country, they only really believe you're successful if you're a doctor, a lawyer, or a surgeon. None of anything else. You can't come to your mom and say, no, I want to be a poet or something or an author. They're going to look at you and say, and then who's going to be feeding the family? First, study, be the doctor we want you to be, and then afterwards, then you can go and be the clown. One said to the child, okay, so you want to be a clown, go ahead, be the clown. But I first want my doctorate so that I can say to people, because that's what she said, and then what am I going to say to people when they ask me, what are you doing? And that's something that parents don't realize, that perhaps you end up leading your kids to meaningless pursuits because of you wanting in the mom squad to also have something to say, like, oh,
maybe it's meaningful for them,
yes,
but not for the child.
Yes, not for the child. So now you're going to say, no, my child's an A student. But maybe the child hates all those subjects that you picked for them. And later they become frustrated. And you are also a frustrated parent because you're the one that has to drive that child to that activity, extramural activity that child hates all the time, all because it's meaningful to you and not to them, and they're unable to be that gift. But if you allow them to go for what they see is meaningful and they love doing it, you are also going to have a happy child and you'll be a happy mom, knowing that you don't need to wake up every morning dragging like a 10-kilo bag of salt into the car.
No, about
to
45.
Yeah, 45, dragging the person, and they don't want to do that. So that's what I just reflected on sometimes it might be meaningful to us, but it's not really meaningful to the next person.
And from what you said in the beginning, you spoke about food and all that. I was just laughing inside because, you know, what I've noticed, every time you go talk to a doctor or who, those who are vegetarian, they will push you to become a vegetarian. They will tell you how bad meat is, chicken, fish, everything. Why? Because they are giving what they have. They are vegetarians. Yeah. So they want everybody to become
That's
a
what
vegetarian.
they pursue.
Yes. And the meat lovers, they will tell you how good meat is and all that. But why, as you spoke about diets and all that, why are you doing that? Does that diet have a meaning for you or to you in your life? What is it going to benefit? So we don't look at those things. And just shifting off that side as well, I was thinking about friendship. Mrs. Marcia spoke a bit about friendship, but I was just thinking about it like when you have a meaningful friendship with people, you know, even the way you treat them, what you give to them, because you have, let's say you are looking for joy. So if you want to have joy, give joy to others, you know, so that you can receive it back. But many times people in friendship or relationships, they want something that they can't even give themselves. That's why we find people, no, I'm a friend of this one because I want this from them. But you don't want to give. You just want to receive. I want to befriend Mrs. Marcia because I know she's going to give me a hug. She's going to smile at me, but I don't want to do it to other people. So why am I befriending her? It's because I want something in return. So many people these days is just about receiving, but they don't want to give. And even to give, they can't give because they have nothing to give. If they give, they end up giving something that is very bad. We spoke about a lot of things. We spoke about being excellent. There are people who do not have this quality of excellence because they do not pursue it. They just tell themselves, I'll never be excellent because I am not excellent. I'm not a person who can be excellent. So they are comfortable with that. So even when they are working, they just do for the sake of work and for the sake of a salary that they are going to receive. And then in friendship as well, no, you are just my friend. You know, they don't give anything. We are just friends because I need someone close to me, but they have nothing to give because they've never invested in themselves so that they can give to others. Yeah.
We can only give what we pursue. I wanted to share with you a very interesting promo about individual pursuits that benefited many of us. You're going to be surprised that you might have in your house one of these pursuits of someone else that became his gift to you, to me, to all of us. Let us watch together.
Toast is a quick and easy breakfast that can be eaten on the go. But it wasn't always so. Before the development of the electronic toaster, hand-sliced bread had to be toasted on a long metal fork or in a metal frame held over a fire or on a gas stove. With that in mind, to give you a better understanding of the evolution of the toaster, let's start from the beginning. At this time in Egypt, leavened bread was considered way nicer compared to flat bread. But there was only one problem. When they left out in the sun for extended periods of time, the dough would become extremely hard, which would in turn make it difficult to consume. The solution to that problem? Toasting. This goes to show that toasting was probably invented as a means to preserve bread and not as a way to make it tastier. In 1893, a Scotsman named Alan McMasters invented the first electronic toaster. This first model had no timer and utilized heating coils to toast the bread slices. Charles Strite, a Minnesota mechanic, created the first pop-up toaster in 1899. And he received his patent for the automatic pop-up toaster in 1921. The specifications of the toaster included a metal closed case to protect hands from heating rods, while incorporating a self-timer to shut off once reached the maximum heating temperature. that further released the toasted bread with the help of a pop-up spring. Much safer than before, right? Now, we've seen the invention of a toaster, which all started with one idea and having been pursued many times. Now, look, a toasted sandwich is not only a marvelous idea, but delicious, all because to the inventors that pursued.
I told you, if you don't have a toaster, I'm sure you have at least once benefited from a toaster. We are going to call for the break right now, and after the break, we will continue proving to you and to us that what we pursue becomes our gift. We will be right back.
Kuyoba mnandi, kuyoba mnandi, kuyoba mnandi, kuyoba mnandi, sesiphelele sisonke ezulwini, ngoba siyazi ukuthi sithembiso zethu Hallelujah, kuyoba mnandi, kuyoba bazalwane, kuyoba mnandi, kuyoba sesiphelele sisonke ezulwini, ngoba siyazi ukuthi sithembiso zethu ezulwini, bazalwane, kuyoba mnandi, kuyoba haleluya, kuyoba mnandi, sesiphelele sisonke ezulwini, ngoba siyazi ukuthi sithembiso zethu ezulwini, khona lena kuyoba mnandi, bazalwane, kuyoba mnandi, sesiphelele sisonke ezulwini, ngoba siyazi ukuthi sithembiso zethu ezulwini, mihla njalo kuyoba mnandi, kuyoba njalo njena, kuyoba mnandi, sesiphelele sisonke ezulwini, ngoba siyazi ukuthi sithembiso khona le ezulwini, kuyoba mnandi, kuyoba mnandi, kuyoba mnandi, sesiphelele sisonke ezulwini, ngoba siyazi ukuthi sithembiso khona le ezulwini, khona le ezulwini.
Welcome back. I wanted to shift a little bit the focus of today's show to the spiritual content. When we think about the meaning of meaningful pursuits in the Bible, we can see clearly there is a life, pursuing a life with God and pursuing godly things. That would be the definition. When you wanted to have a meaningful pursuit in your spiritual life, it is to prioritize God, and everything that you do needs to point up to God. That's my understanding. Would you agree with that? However, sometimes if we don't put God first, and if we don't pursue godly things, because it's easy to say, I put God first, but when I have to make choices, not always my choices may be godly. And in that, I am no longer pursuing what is meaningful. So if my choices are not meaningful, what kind of Christian will I be? Will I be a Christian that will show God to others, or I will do very wise choices in all areas of my life, meaningful pursuits for my family, for my career, for my health, for my well-being, as a citizen in the society, as a member of the community? But if I don't apply the same in my spiritual life, I will be one that will come to church to pursue blessings, but not God himself, not a life with him, not an unconditional surrendering to him. So when would one, for example, would pursue everything right and be deceived that maybe he is pursuing a life with God when he's far away from God?
I think one of the popular ones that I've seen within the Christian society is when it's the beginning of the year, when they set out their resolutions. Then there are those that say, I will read the whole Bible in 365 days. It's very meaningful. It's a good pursuit to have. But many of them actually don't draw the spirit from the Word of God. So they're just reading it because they have the Bible plan that's there. And then I'm doing it because I said I'm going to read the entire Bible in 365 days. But when life throws curveballs and challenges that require me to now put in practice what I am reading, that's where we see a lot of them sadly failing. Because then we ask ourselves, but then when you were quoting that verse, when we were in a conversation about this, and you said, oh, I remember in John, verse this and that, you become like a biblical encyclopedia. Like everybody just looks at you like she should know it. But when we look at the essence and the practice of it, it's not there, because what it may have seemed as it was meaningful in the beginning, which is good to know what the Word of God is, because it's our campus, it's our guide. But when we don't apply it, it just becomes like any other ordinary book, because when you're confronted with a situation where someone crosses you or does something to you, the forgiveness part, it's like you forgot it. And when we read in the Bible, if there's one thing that we keep learning, it's the lesson of forgiveness, how God always forgives those who humble themselves and recognize that they are wrong and ask for his forgiveness. But when you just read it, even when someone comes and says, I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to do that, people still hold on to it and say, oh no, yeah, I do forgive you, but you know, I need to watch out. And sometimes they even misquote Bible scriptures. You pick a verse loosely that has nothing to do with that situation, and you end up misleading people because you never drew what the real lesson was, what the moment was at that time. And you just come and you say, oh no, I'm doing this because in the Bible, Jesus did this. But then that's not what Jesus meant at that moment. You didn't read the atmosphere of what it was about and where it began, how it ended. They just draw that and they say, this is what was done, so this is how I'm going to deal with you. And at the end of the day, you end up not being a gift to your family, because as Christians, what we always want is to share what we have: salvation, redemption from God, and eternal life. But because you are now that judge, people end up maybe even cowering away from knowing God because of the verses that you kept and you used to protect yourself.
I was thinking also about fasting, you know. There are many people who are good at fasting. Fasting is good. It's something very good when it has meaning. But there are people who even brag. They will tell you how good they are at fasting. I can go 3 days without having food at all, not even water. They will tell you, even during the 21 days fasting of Daniel, there are people who can tell you, you know what, me, I did not do anything. I did not watch even a Christian movie. Yes, that is good, but how did it help you? And then you find a person who was fasting maybe for 21 days, 10 days, 15 days, but their lives are still the same. The person has lost weight, but the fast has not transformed them because it had no meaning. They just did it, to be known that they know how to fast. They wanted to prove to everyone that I can stay hungry, but what did it do for you? It didn't do anything. It didn't change you. It didn't transform you. You are still the same person who's easily angered, the same person who is easily irritated, the same person who causes confusion, even in your family. So the fast has not changed you. You know how to fast, but that fast has no meaning. So at the end of the day, you have nothing to give. Because when you fast with a purpose and meaning, when that fast transforms you, it changes you. You have something to give to people and tell them how you were transformed. You even encourage them, telling them, do this fast because it has transformed me. It has done this and this and this in my life, and I know it can do the same to you. But you can't say that because it hasn't done anything. The only thing it did, it helped you to lose weight maybe.
And to brag about.
Exactly.
Oh,
and
I
to
did
brag.
this
Yes.
this long.
Exactly.
I
And you-
did this. I
and you
did
end
that.
up even judging people that fast maybe for 4 hours, 3 hours. You say, oh, 3 hours, what's that? And then you fast maybe 12 hours. But the one who did 3 hours, it impacted her greatly. And you who did 12, nothing. And another thing that I was thinking about, Miss Mas, when Precious was talking, I was just thinking in my mind that there are people who are watching us. They watch this program. And what does it mean to you? Maybe you just watch it to tell others, me, I don't miss any of them. I watch every Friday, I'm connected. But what are you drawing from this program? What are you getting how has it helped you? Maybe nothing. So it's high time you do it with a purpose and meaning. Yeah.
And then you're going to be pursuing meaningfully. I'm going to get to them by surprise, and I'm going to ask them, can you share something that you have pursued meaningfully, or maybe an experience that you have pursued something that you saw after it was meaningless?
I think, okay, I'll start with the meaningless. When I was starting off in my faith, I remember I used to come to the service with my father every morning, 6 o'clock religiously, 7 days a week. But at first it was, okay, I'm going with my dad. But for me, during the service, because I was still not decided strongly and firmly, I would end up leaving the service and being the same Precious as Ms. Togo was speaking about afterwards. So as soon as I get around people, my friends or anybody, I would immediately go back to being who I am and speak the same way, act the same way. Yeah, and act the same way. And no one would even know. The worst part was people would not even tell the difference that she came from church this morning. But then I remember as soon as I began to reflect and say, but who am I fooling? Who am I playing with? Me coming every morning is honestly meaningless. And I remember once one pastor asked me and said, why do you come? And I said, I kept quiet. And then I said, no, because my dad comes with me. And then he said, so it means there's no purpose to you coming every morning. You're just coming because your father comes with you in the morning. And when I stopped and I said, okay, God, I really want this 1 hour or 45 minutes to make a difference in my life. Then I started asking for God to help me, to transform me. It would be even on days maybe when the chain of prayer is made and everybody's maybe praying for maybe healing and I wasn't sick. My prayer would always be, God, I don't want to be spiritually ill, but I want to be healed spiritually. I want to be one with you. And from doing that, it gave me that courage of always pursuing to know who I am on the inside. Because when I know who I am able to actually do better and do good in what I'm supposed to, but also to fix what needs to be fixed. Because sometimes I think if I failed to do that back then, I would have pretended and I would have gone through the motions and everyone would have thought, oh, she's a good girl. She's here every time in church. But truthfully, because I had front myself, I knew I wasn't what I was saying I was. So one of the most meaningful things I always do is I always ask myself, why am I doing this? Or why do I want to be part of this? Or why would I like to engage in this? Is it for me to learn, to grow, and to mature and serve God better? Or am I just going to do it because everybody else is doing it, or I am being called on this project? And I think one of the things, the answer is not as pretty as, oh, because it's admirable, no, I want to grow. Sometimes like, oh, I don't want to feel left out, so I just joined in. And from that, then you're able to draw and say, then it is not right. You need to do it with the right intent and right decisions. Ms. Togo was speaking about fasting as well. I remember the one that we had where we had to fast 24 hours. In that one, honestly, I didn't think it was going to be that challenging. But it was the most challenging, I think, of all fasts I had done. Because really, like, we had to sit and there was a purpose. And I remember at first when we were going to discuss it, when Ms. Masa asked us, so girls, how was it? A little part of me was scared to say, hey, it was hectic. But when we started speaking, it showed me that was what God wanted us to see, to work on, because it was something he was calling us to do. And from that, I got to draw that every single thing that I do, it needs to be really focused, because yes, sometimes I don't think anyone fasts to show off, but along the way, they lose the concept because you start doing it so regularly that you forget the real intent of it. But when you say, no, let me stop, instead of me doing it every week, how about I stop and see what will happen in this week if I don't? Then you'll be able to see
What else can I do?
What else can I do that God wants from me? Then you'll be able to go to the next level and to the next step. And that becomes meaningful to your journey, because you can't look back in a month and say, nothing happened. I'm still the same precious. Every single day, if really I'm on the right purpose of saying, I'm serving God. And people think serving God is what we do, but it's what we offer as well. If I'm available to hear God's voice, his direction, I am actually serving him. And when he says, cut this off, and I do, it actually is meaningful.
That's servitude.
And I won't bring it back to me anymore, because I realize how meaningless it was at that point.
Sometimes we can say that to be meaningful means you don't do certain things. And in not doing, you really have a meaning. Toko, tell us all.
I've made meaningless prayers.
Really?
Yes. You know when you go through something and you're like, God, change the situation, but really fasting and doing just a lot of things to draw the attention of God. Until, there was nothing, no answer from God, not because he is not able to answer me, but because of the things I wanted, And until God spoke to me and said to me, I am not going to change the situation here. You just have to change the way you look at things. The problem is your eyes. It's not nice to hear that. But I felt, I heard it very clear. The voice of God was so clear to me that I am not going to change anything. You first have to change the way you look at things. Then I'm like, oh my God, but people are doing this to me. God understand. You try to bargain with God, and God is just giving you the same answer all the time. Until I changed the way I look at things and decided to look at things in a different way. Then things changed, not because people changed, but the situation changed because I decided to change and look at the things with the eyes of God. So the prayers I was making that time were meaningless because I was fasting, I was praying, I would do a lot of things, but nothing was happening. So I from that, I learned that there are things that sometimes you don't need prayer. You just need to change. Because there are people sometimes they say, oh, my husband is like this and this and this. But maybe your husband is not like that. The problem is the way you look at him and what you expect. You are expecting too much from him or even from your kids. So for me, I've learned, like when there is a situation, I learned from that how should I look at things? How would God look at this situation at the moment? If it was God standing here, how would he react? So then even the reaction becomes different, because now you are looking at things with the eyes of God. And another thing that I learned in my journey of faith, it's so beautiful, it's so beautiful when you listen to God. It's very, very beautiful. It's something that you cannot even explain to someone, because it's yours. It's not for that person. Every time from that situation, every time I go through something, I always ask myself, did I contribute to that? Maybe I contributed
Somehow.
the way, because God is like this. Something happens to you, he wants to see your reaction. He is not looking at what Precious is doing to me at that moment. He is looking at my reaction. So from then I learned that every time something happens in my life, doesn't matter what it is, I just sit down and say, God, if I have contributed somewhere, somehow to this, that is why this is happening to me, please help me to see that. I don't want to be blind, to my mistakes as well. So that helps me to keep check of my life every time. And it's beautiful. You can't explain until someone experiences that.
That's relationship with God.
Yes.
That is to pursue God and godly things. My meaningless pursuit, it started and always disguised as something very noble. When you are investing in someone to change, to give himself to God, to have a different life, to make some options. But I realized that all that I was doing was meaningless because I was trying to do it in my way. Yes, I had a very honorable cause. I needed someone very dear to change and to turn himself to God. Until here, beautiful. But my pursuit was on my terms and not on God's terms, in my time and not in God's times. So that's why, even though it was noble, it became meaningless because it was about what I thought. And when I didn't see the result, the frustration. But when I think today of the gift that I was giving, I was not giving of God. I was in that anxiety of motivation to see the person changing, but it was in my way. It was not God working in the person and just using me as a channel. I wanted to do all that I could to see that person changing. And the person didn't want to change. So
it was a good cause, isn't it?
Yeah. And it was meaningless. It was a pursuit. So that said, I wanted to go now to God points in this.
Now, let's see God's point in this.
Today we are going to read 1 Timothy 6, 10 and 11. The first one you probably know very well. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. We're not saying here that money is evil. We're saying the love of money. And what people are doing out there in pursuit of money. They accept bribery. They accept corruption. They sell themselves. They put people down. They betray. They make extra costs. They even might allow a small group to go in need so that they have a better share. So money itself is not the problem, but the love to it. Because when you are pursuing money above anything else, You are giving yourself the chance to be trapped by greatness, as the Bible verse says, and pierce themselves through with many sorrows. You get into trouble. But then the next verse reads, but you, O woman of God, here it says man of God, but this show is for women, so he's talking to you, but you, man or woman of God, flee these things. So do not give yourself to empty pursuits, to meaningless pursuits, but pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, and gentleness. When we pursue what is really noble, when we pursue righteousness, gentleness, love, and faith, whatever we do, it is meaningful. It has a purpose and a reason, and that pursuit will become our gift to others. But if we pursue what is selfish, what is self-centered, our gift to others will be frustration, disappointment, and who knows if we are going to let them see our God in a very corruptive, destructive way, because I am giving to them out of my meaningless pursuit. Toko, I'm going to invite you for the conclusion of the matter of today.
Now for the conclusion of the matter.
The conclusion of the matter of today is that be sure of your pursuit. What is it that you are pursuing? Be sure of it, because you don't want to waste your time and time of people, your energy, your resources, pursuing something that is meaningless to you. So pursue something that is meaningful so that you don't waste your time and have regrets at the end of the day.
So that you can align your pursuits with goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, love, and faith. We are going to pray for you right now. Shall we?
Our Lord, we thank you so much for this topic of today. It is almost like you are telling us to stop and reset our minds and our goals and what we are trying to go towards. Perhaps this person has been watching and all that keeps coming to their minds is, I am on the wrong side. I have been having meaningless pursuits. What to do now? But we ask right now that you give her this conviction and understanding that you have allowed her to stop and restart and to now start pursuing what is yours, what is good, my Lord, and what at the end of the day will not just satisfy her, but it will also be a blessing to her family, to her friends, to her colleagues, and above all will glorify your name. We surrender, my Lord, everything that we're going to do from this point on. Let it be, my Lord, that it will have meaning, a meaning that will not just be temporary, but my Lord, will be imprinted and marked upon our lives and those who are around us. We surrender this day into your hands and ask that you bless every single thing that they're going to commit to you from now on. Those who are not even sure what the plans are that they have, if they were actually meaningful or not, we know and believe that you will guide them on the right path. In Jesus' name we ask all of this. Amen.
Amen. So we hope to see you next month. Would you believe? May already. And of course, we are going to bring something different, exciting, and another real life experience. Next week, we're talking about that confidence is silent, but insecurities are loud and very loud and very loud in the life of the person that we have invited to be here in our hot seat to share her journey with you. God bless your month of May, Workers' Month. May God multiply and may God help you to apply yourself in pursuits that will be meaningful and will become gifts in the life of others. Until then, bye-bye.